Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here and joining us today. Hopefully you're all well, safe, and healthy. Hopefully you're enjoying a nice fall day, kind of wherever you are in the country. I know that the team represented here is all over. We've got people from the South, from the North, from the Midwest. A multitude of time zones and a multitude of different iterations of fall going on here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending your time here today. We know that a lot of people are kind of webinared out, right? reInvent's coming up. That's 3 weeks of solid web meetings. Maybe your office chair is starting to meld to your back and you're on now just kind of one entity of chair, wheel, human sort of thing. But we certainly appreciate you taking your time and being here today. We hope to make this valuable for you. And without further ado, we'll kind of get into the content of what we're covering. So today we've got two presenters coming from two different organizations. One is Trend Micro and the other one is Kinect Consulting. Trend Micro is a technology provider with 56 different technologies. The technologies that we're going to focus on today from a Trend perspective are what's called their Cloud One or Cloud One portfolio. It's related to the cloud offering, which is why you'll see Kinect coming in very well here, given that they're a cloud consultant organization with an AWS focus. So the 6 products and the kind of suite that Trend Micro is going to talk about is what's called Cloud One. One of the particular products that we have is called Cloud One Conformity. And you'll see Rafael Bettino, who's a solutions architect from Trend Micro, has many years of experience at Trend Micro, lots of experience in the cloud, lots of speaking experience from cloud security alliances to webinars with AWS and that sort of thing. Great technical resource that's going to be speaking and talking about Trend's product set. And then Stacy Tucker, who joins us from Kinect Consulting, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Fortune 83 out of Miami, Florida. Kinect Consulting is a premier consulting partner, AWS consulting partner, as well as an AWS well-architected partner and AWS public sector partner. Stacy himself has many certifications from AWS and a lot of expertise. I think he's also top secret or secret certified. So he might know where some bodies are buried across our government or federal organization. But really what I'm trying to say from the resources that you have here today are two just titans, right? You've got expertise on both sides of the spectrum, the services side. So seeing lots of things that are happening in AWS, in cloud consulting, in lift and shift, and that sort of perspective. And you've got a titan on the technology side, cloud versed, well-spoken, lots of technological background. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Stacy to kind of kick us off. And Stacy, if you want to start, and hopefully that introduction served you well. If there's anything else that you want to mention, please go through and do so. But I'll pass it over to you, and you can start sharing your screen.
Thank you, Aaron. That was an excellent introduction, and I promise we will meet up to those expectations today. So where I want to begin is talking a little bit more about what we do. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yeah, it's coming through great.
Okay, excellent. So, and I also wanted to reiterate some very positive news as it relates to compliance and security before we begin, right? So we help customers with compliance, governance, risk management, and security in the cloud. And the really good news that folks have heard and seen a lot in the form of the orange and blue boxes at the bottom of the slide is that AWS has achieved a superset of global compliance attestations for security of the cloud. This is a major benefit to customers because it provides over 220 services built with security by design. And as most AWS customers know very well, you are responsible for also providing security for what you put in the cloud with the focus on transmitting, storing, and processing your information and information systems. So this is what Kinect help customers do. We specialize in compliance, governance, risk management, and security. As an AWS advanced partner, we help customers efficiently observe the full scope of customer responsibilities in the AWS shared responsibility model. as a well-architected partner, we help customers focus on actually establishing, maintaining, and maturing well-architected best practices in the form of the quarterly review process and helping the teams get educated in their implementations. And some of what Aaron mentioned about our experience in the past as a highly experienced cross-functional team specializing in cloud consulting, we help developers, information security, and operations teams, as well as authorizing officials, work together to define, align, and operationalize compliance and security controls as code, automation, and best-in-class security capabilities. So what's interesting is that when we do this work, one of the questions we're asked often is, what are other customers doing? And what this is really about is the customer experience, right? So other customers want to know, what are the experiences of the development team, the security team, the operations team, and the folks that make decisions? So what we see is that ultimately it comes down to these 4 questions, which is, can we automate it? Are we secure? How do we operate it? And are we compliant? And so for developers, they really see and feel that extending compliance and security into their workloads feels constrained, overly controlled, and forced. For the security team, mapping existing policies, procedures, and compliance mandates and security controls to cloud services in a shared responsibility model feels circuitous, uncertain, and disjointed. And for the operations team, aligning all of that activity to then define how to operationalize security feels very complex and difficult to follow. And for the authorizing official, who may be a CISO or a CIO, making risk-based decisions while also maturing the team's cloud capabilities and their awareness of the full scope of customer responsibilities feels disconcerting. So to transform these feelings and perceptions to an experience of operational excellence and IT efficiency, we help customers understand and leverage the AWS well-architected framework, Trend Micro Cloud One, and Cloud One conformity, compliance, and security capabilities. The AWS well-architected framework teaches cloud teams how to implement AWS cloud services built with security by design in such a way to accelerate adoption of best practices in the cloud. And this covers 5 key pillars: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. Now, you may notice here, this is an enterprise architecture approach to comprehensive risk reductions in the cloud, which aligns to all stakeholders, including developers. And Trend Micro Cloud One provides a comprehensive cloud security solution set that helps information security teams protect cloud resources. Lastly, in this effort to achieve excellence in IT efficiency, the game changer for authorizing officials is Cloud One conformity. This provides visibility for governance, risk management, and security assurance for cloud workloads in ways that creates a whole new situation for the team. So when you put it all together, this approach helps the cloud team shift their experiences and feelings about compliance and security in the cloud from complex, circuitous, constrained, to confident, where you have full assurance, to surprisingly easy, to compliant with rules, standards, and laws. So today we're going to show you, right? We're not just going to talk about this. We're going to show you how we do it and where the value is in this approach. And we're going to use a real world example from the well-architected process We're going to start with security question 6, which asks, how do you protect your compute resources? Now, the well-architected framework guidance states compute resources in your workload require multiple layers of defense to help protect from external and internal threats. Compute resources include EC2 instances, containers, Lambda functions, database services, IoT devices, and more. So we're going to focus in our use case today on EC2 instances. And the best practice guidance outlines the following bullets, which cover performance vulnerability management, reducing the attack surface, implementing managed services, enabling people to perform actions at a distance, automating compute protection, enforcing and validating security controls and configurations, and then validating software integrity. So how do we do this? We map the well-architected guidance to controls, and in this case, we're going to look at NIST 853 and the NIST cybersecurity framework, because we see these as being the most comprehensive and the most thorough in this space. Typically, when customers approach other compliance mandates such as HIPAA or PCI, et cetera, there is an alignment to these controls as well. So here we show you how you align well-architected to these two controls frameworks. And then we're going to take a deeper dive and look at how this aligns to customer responsibilities. So next, we approach how to define operationalizing these controls. So we're going to use a number of services outlined at the top here, from CloudFormation templates to AWS code pipeline, cloud conformity at the center, and CloudFormation for deployment and other controls, and Cloud One workload security. So in the details here, we're going to break down the well-architected framework approach, the controls and customer responsibilities aligned, right? So we have reducing the attack surface all the way through to validating software integrity. So let's look a little deeper at this alignment. So to reduce the attack surface, we're going to use infrastructure as code, where developers will implement compliance and security requirements as version-controlled templates. This is shifting security left and making security job one. To implement managed services, enable people to perform actions at a distance, and require developers to follow a documented development process, we're going to use code pipeline to enforce compliance as controls. To identify, report, and remediate vulnerability flaws, we're going to use Trend Micro Cloud One conformity to integrate with the automation pipeline and as a feedback loop for compliance reporting. Then to protect compute resources in the development and testing process, we ensure that all resources include asset management and compliance tags, and then use automation to configure system components for high-risk areas based on those tags. And lastly, to validate software integrity for workloads, we're going to use Trend Micro Workload Security to monitor and detect unauthorized changes to workload software, firmware, and information, including additional controls for the lion's share of the NIST 853 SI7 family of controls, or I should say SI family controls. So with no further ado, let's jump into the demo.
Stacey, before we get into that demo piece, throw you a little curveball. First off, I think this is the first presentation I've ever been in where the word circuitous came up. So thank you for enlightening and making us have a much better vocabulary. For those of you who don't know what it is, I did have to look it up on Google, but I'll leave that search open for you. But quick question before we hand it over to Raphael. You mentioned that you get a lot of your customers that are asking for your guidance and for you to take them down this road. In this example that you're going to go through, is this kind of what you're seeing in the real world today from a customer demand perspective?
Absolutely. To bring together those four personas, developers, the information security team, the operations team, and authorizing officials, to a place where they have confidence and assurance about how to implement their workloads in the cloud, ensuring that they're secure and they're compliant. This process that we're going to show you is a game changer. It is highly efficient and highly effective for the work that teams, they already know how to do this very well on-prem, but mapping it to a way to do it where everyone's working together, not in silos, and not chasing processes, but actually sharing a process. Yes, this is very effective.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so we'll take it over to have Raf share his screen. So if Stacy, you want to stop sharing, and then we can pass it over to Raphael. As I mentioned, Raphael from Trend Micro here is going to give you an actual demonstration of the process that Stacy just defined in his presentation. Over to you, Raphael.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So what you're hopefully seeing right now is the Cloud One portfolio, like I mentioned, Aaron. And Aaron also mentioned there are 6 different services. They are the workload security, container security, application security, file storage security, conformity, and network security. They have, think of Cloud One as similar to AWS, but just for AWS, for security services. So you can go there and pick and choose and use whatever makes sense to your environment. And here today, we're going to focus on workload security and conformity. Workload security being closer to a traditional AV, if you will, but it's not. So it has AV, but it was built for cloud environments. It also has different security controls that we're going to look at. And conformity is looking at your cloud infrastructure, looking for possible misconfigurations across the 5 pillars of the well-architected framework. Okay. So first, and I'm doing all live here, so hopefully everything is going to go well. If it doesn't, I recorded a demo earlier today, so we have that as well. But first, what I'm going to do here is show you a CloudFormation template that I have here in my computer, right? It's a regular CloudFormation template. I'm creating some VPC, subnets, EC2 instances, and one EC2 instance and an S3 bucket, okay? Nothing much special about it. I just tagged every single resource here with a key risk and value high. So every resource on this template, I'm considering part of an infrastructure of high risk, okay? So what I'm going to do now is to, I'm going to commit that change to my repository. Oops, I'm going to commit that to my repository. So I'm pushing to my repository, and the repository actually is a code commit repository, and it's part of a code pipeline in AWS. So I just committed. Hopefully we're going to see that AWS is going to detect that change really quickly. What I can also do just to make it faster to us is to actually refresh. As you can see, actually pick the change. It is testing the change. And what exactly is this test here? So conformity is capable of both looking at your environment, looking for misconfigurations on your live environment, but it's also capable of scanning your CloudFormation templates, looking for misconfigurations before you actually build your environment. So I'm installing the conformity template scanner here, and look at that. It scanned the template. It actually found some vulnerabilities, one of them being very high, something that I'm not tolerating here. I'm not okay with very high detections. I have all the detections here. And security and misconfiguration issues were found. So it doesn't actually build the environment. It fails the build, right? And the very high detection here is a bucket that is allowing public read access. So I probably need to go back to my template. And as you can see here, the test failed, and therefore it didn't push to build, right? So you can see there was an hour ago when I was recording my demo, the one that ran out, it failed. So I'll go back here to my template. I'll search for S3, And really quickly, I can see that I actually have an access control public read, something that is not okay for my high risk environment. So what I'm going to do is to delete that entry, save the changes, and I'm going to commit that again. So let's fixing public access to S3 bucket. I'm going to push that change to my Git repository. Change was pushed. If I go back here, let me refresh, just make it a little bit faster. So again, the change was detected by code pipeline. It's getting the new object. It's going to do, of course, a new test. Let's wait for that to kick in. And hopefully now that
if I can jump in, Raph, this is precisely where we're going to reduce the attack surface in the pipeline, right? So this is all those controls coming into action that relate to reducing the attack surface.
Exactly.
And this is also that compliance piece that you talked about, Stacy, right? So we've got, not allowing a public S3 bucket as part of a violation of NIST 800-53 in action as a developer is going to promote their code, right?
Exactly.
So we are pretty much automating compliance here, right? We don't have the high risk detection anymore, right? It means that we're okay with the lows and medians, and the template is passing out the configure checks. So if I go back here, I'm going to see that it's actually building the environment now. So because it passed our tests, it's going to build the resource, and the stack is being built here. While it's building, let me show you a little bit of Cloud One workload security. Cloud One workload security, let me click in a random, actually let me pick the right policy. I have a high risk policy here. And this policy is currently not applied to any computers, as you can see. And this policy is enabling integrity monitoring and log inspection to all my, to whatever server that applies this policy, okay? And even though it doesn't have, as we can see here, rules applied to it, it has something called a recommendation scan, okay? And it's going to automatically implement rules based on the recommendation scan. A recommendation scan is a capability of the agent of looking from inside out for what OS it's running on, what applications, what services are running on that specific instance or server. And based on that, auto apply the recommended rules for this workload, okay? So that's hopefully going to happen whenever a computer actually uses this policy. Something else here is the capability of auto-applying policies to computers based on certain criteria, okay? So I have an event-based task here. So I click here in event-based tasks. And if I click on this one that I created, I have the following action. I'm going to apply the policy high risk, for any EC2 instance that has a tag risk with the value high, okay? So which means that whenever an instance is created in AWS that is tagged with a tag called risk and the value is high, Cloud One workload security will auto-detect that and also auto-apply the right policy to the right computer based on the right tagging, okay?
So Raph, can I jump in for 1 second here?
Always.
This directly relates to taking action and operationalizing how cloud workloads are categorized for risk, right? So in the work of information security, the first step is always to deal with asset management, and that's the tagging coming into play here. And then the second step is to categorize the risk for your workloads based on data classification, etc. So we're showing you how to operationalize the outcomes of those decisions. You have determined that the risk is high for your workload. You have tagged it as such. And now there's automation that's ensuring that the workload is protected by default.
Exactly. And we have even something called smart folders here, Stacy, where we can auto-populate these computer folders based on certain criteria. So here, what I have here is exactly what we have for policy. We have here to auto-apply policy. We have here for visibility. I created a smart folder that is going to add any computer that is tagged with high risk is going to be part of this folder. Okay. As of right now, it's empty because we still have the stack running here, so it's still building everything. So probably the instance was just created. If I click here in the instance, it's going to take me to its view here on the EC2 panel. And of course, if we look at tags, we have the risk high tag here, which means that if we go back to Cloud One, I'll just to, again, for the sake of the demo, I'm going to force a synchronization. Even though it happens once per minute, I'm going to force it. And as we can see, of course, the instance just popped up, right? As of right now, it has no policy just because it just detected the instance. And what is going to happen in the back end is that, oh, there you go. Now we have the high risk policy. It was really fast. We detected that because this instance has the tag that we mentioned, it auto-applied the right policy for this server, for this instance, okay? And now we also auto-apply the right rules for this instance. So if I go here to integrity monitoring, for instance, because it's an AWS Linux 2 running, it also automatically added a bunch of standard recommended rules, logging integrity monitoring rules for a Linux system, okay? But as you saw before, this workload is not just EC2 instance. We also had an S3 bucket there, but also VPC, we had a subnet, we had a security groups, and that's where conformity comes in, okay? Let me force a manual scan here in my environment. Actually, it's running right now. That's perfect. So while workload security is really focused on making sure that your instance is protected, conformity is about making sure that everything around it is well configured. And again, we can filter by tagging as well, so we can focus only on these high risk detections, okay, environment, sorry. So if I go here, enter risk, high, and press enter, it's going to filter all these detections just for workloads that are high risk, okay? And I wanna see just the misconfigurations. So I'm going to uncheck success. And now I can see that I still have some misconfigurations, those low and mediums that we saw in the pipeline, but I can work with them in my live environment as well if needed. Or of course, this being just a demo, right? There wasn't anything big here, but let's say that an actor is capable of changing something in a live environment, you would be able to see that right away. And you don't even need to log into conformity to be able to see these detections. We integrate with Jira, Slack, ServiceNow, you name it, right? And you would be capable of receiving that information in your tool of choice, right? You don't need to learn yet another tool to be able to deal with these detections. And on top of that, if cloud is something new to you, if you're new to AWS or new to a specific service, it's always good to know that we have what we call the knowledge base, which by the way is free and open to anyone. So as soon as we finish this webinar, you can actually go to cloudconformity.com and you would have exactly the same visibility that I have. You can see For every rule that we have in conformity, you can see why this is a best practice, which pillar of the well-architected framework that rule belongs to, which compliance standards requires you to follow that, but also how to audit yourself if you have a misconfiguration, and how to remediate step by step this misconfiguration.